Hello and welcome to the Shared Screens Game of the Year podcast for the year 2022. Joining me as part of Shared Screens, we have Alec Bobko. How you doing, Alec?
Doing great tonight.
Chance, how you doing, Chance?
Doing great, thanks, Austin.
Brett, how we doing, Brett?
Don't forget to budget the Wii U eShop into your funds this month.
Oh man, I forgot.
I've literally never once budgeted anything Wii U into my budget before.
And there's
Now's
Chris.
the time. You have 2 months.
How we doing, Chris?
I'm tired, bro.
All right.
I'm excited to talk about games in Game of the Year specifically, but I also kind of want to take a nap, you know?
Oh no, we gotta hype it up a little bit.
Sunday fun day, you know?
Got Jordan as well. How we doing, Jordan D?
Goty is my favorite way to pronounce Goty because I just think of the meme from 2016 all the time.
Goaty?
Oh, yeah.
Your clap messed up the audio.
Yeah,
It
no,
didn't
we
come
didn't
out.
hear the actual
none
pronunciation
of
of the
that.
thing you said.
Oh, I went Goty like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was
Yep,
crucial
that makes
for this
so much
podcast.
sense.
Sorry.
I'm glad we
Yeah,
got that
set
in
the
here.
tone.
Last but not least, we got some other Josh. How we doing, Josh?
Video games good, man. Video games good.
Video
Let's
games
talk about it.
are good. I'm your host, Austin. I always forget to say that. So hello, I am hosting. My name is Austin.
Hello, host Austin.
I did the thing. Hi,
How are you
Mom.
How are
doing,
you
Austin?
doing, Austin?
I'm great. I'm ready to get this ball rolling. Let's fucking go. This is like my favorite podcast of the year is Game of the Year, or like either that following and then like anticipated games. Those are always really, really fun. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of the podcast, I do want to say a little insider knowledge on this Game of the Year process. So we all submit our top 5 games. Of those top 5 games, number 1 gets 5 points. Number 2 gets 4 points. Number 3 gets 3 points, and so on. So if they want to give points to multiple games, they can do so by listing them as such. Now, and Funny also does this. We did it first. All right, suckers? We did this
It was
first.
us.
I
They
just
copied
want
us
that-
for once. It never happens. We did it first. Fuck you, bitches. Let's go.
I love Kind of Funny. I'm just saying. I was wearing that the nice sweater today to work.
That'd be kind of funny.
I could have sworn they did it in 2020, and that's how Last of Us ended up as number 2, and it was a surprise to them. And we got started in 2020.
Here's the thing. I know for a fact that I at least had the idea for it before we saw what they
Did
did.
it first, bitches. Let's go.
All right, we're getting hung up in the weeds. Let's keep going.
Regardless, fuck 'em. But yeah, a little more insider knowledge. I thought it was really interesting since we all had to submit 5 games each. There were 22 different games submitted in total. And I think that's pretty impressive. I think that's kind of cool. We didn't just do like the same like 11 or whatever, which I think has happened in the past when we did like only 3 games. So I think the 5 games system works better because it gave more games more opportunities to get points. For instance, if I were to keep it to the 1 through 3, a lot of games wouldn't have even made it more than on more than one person's lists because a lot of them were like at the 4 and 5 range where they got a few more points. So at the top of the show, I want to talk about my game of the year because it did not make the top 5 consensus for the group.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I'm okay with it because I thought about it. I'm like, I'm hosting this panel, so it's okay because I'll be doing the same amount of talking as everyone else, even though I have no games to add to this discussion except for one. But we'll get there. So, my game of the year is a Pokemon game. It's not Scarlet and Violet.
The legend.
Wink. It's not Scarlet and Violet. Wink. That's just, giving a little bit away for later. But yes, my game of the year is Pokemon Legends Arceus. And
Really?
some people are like, "Oh my god, I didn't think you liked that game that much." I fucking love that game. The change in formula for Arceus for me was crucial. Like the fact that in such a long time the Pokemon games have been like the exact same thing, and I think this change in formula, whether or not the change in formula wasn't even that great, I think it was a good step forward, and I think it was a much better step forward for Pokemon as a franchise. It was a better step forward that I've seen in a long time for them.
I had
And I
to
cannot
I had to sit down and
trust that.
deliberate on like Legends versus Scarlet and Violet, right? I think Legends was that breath of fresh air that I've been looking for, but it also like at times does feel like it's like it was almost there, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. Out of it yet, but the aesthetic of it, I absolutely adore, man.
Yeah.
Getting I actually really enjoyed the story of it. I liked like the wooden Pokeballs and stuff, and everyone's in, like,
I
samurai
want
and,
one. I want
like
one
the-
so bad.
ancient like samurai gear, like the Hisuian forms, like it was all. I really like that, and I hope that Legends like continues as a series, and we get to see like ancient Sinnoh, or I guess we got Sinnoh, like ancient Johto or
That
Hoenn
was the
or
one I
that sort of
wanted
thing. I think would be really
so
cool.
bad.
Like Legends Ho-Oh would be sick.
Yeah. So and I don't want us to focus on it too much, but like I can't not ask a follow up with a Pokemon question. Why Arceus and not Scarlet and Violet? Because for me personally, I think Arceus was good, but something about it didn't keep me in. Now, granted, my first half of the year was a little sparse with games because I was finishing up my master, so I was like, unless it's absolutely necessary, I'm not playing it. And coming off Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, I just think by the time I got to Arceus, I was a little Pokemon fatigued. But I did like what you guys are saying. I do not want this to be the only and last Legends game. I did love getting to sneak on the Pokemon, so I did like it, but like, why over Scarlet and Violet?
Well, I think there's a multitude of reasons. I don't think it's like one solid thing. Okay. One, it ran better. It's hard not to, but it ran better.
Low bar.
That's one. The side quests in Arceus, I like genuinely made me feel like the anime. Like I know Jordan brought up he felt like the anime when he was playing with friends for Scarlet and Violet, but for me, when you're like going around finding the Drifloon who's like taking children, like that's fucked up, and that's Pokemon for me. Like that was so. That's just an example, but that's really cool for me. And for Arceus, the world like changed for things that you did. I know Pokemon games kind of do that, but I feel like Pokemon games like Scarlet and Violet, like mainline games, usually they feel more lived in, but they don't feel like you can influence them as much. I feel like Arceus, I was directly influencing the world as I played it. It's simplified evolution with all those items that you can get from that vendor. I don't remember exactly how that works, but you can just go trade in your like points that you earn from catching Pokemon. And I hate gimmicks. I am not a fan of gimmicks, like Gigantamax and all that, but the quote unquote gimmick for this game was that agile and strong style. I really dug that. Mm-hmm. I was so about that change in not only in the formula for the game, but formula in the combat itself. I loved that so much. And my last point for like why this is my game of the year, Pokemon has never had me theorizing shit. Like, I've always been like, I really enjoy this formula of a game, but I was theorizing like time travel and like gyms and like all this like weird Pokemon time travel and like space stuff. And I don't do that for Pokemon games, but for this one, I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, wait, hold up. Like, I had all these ideas.
Yeah, I think we should definitely move on so we can get to our actual list. But like, it was cool to like,
that's my last point.
To see Pokemon like essentially like people interact with the world and have a setup that was very, very different to the point. It's like all of the people were like, yeah, yo, don't go out where the Pokemon are, they'll fucking kill you. Like I thought that was really cool, and like being somebody that trains Pokemon is like uncommon. I thought that was really neat.
You know, the approach, how you catch a Pokemon be very different. Like you can literally just throw a Pokeball at him instead.
Catching Pokemon in that game is so fucking cool.
Love that.
It's so much fun.
Around.
I didn't finish Arceus, and now you've made me want to go back and finish it.
I think it's like this would be my closing statement on Pokemon. I think if you're a Pokemon fan, it's a must play. I think if you like RPGs, like there are a lot more games out there that do a lot better. Like if you're a Pokemon fan, for me, it's a must play.
I remember there was just like Horizon and Elden Ring came out, and that's what cut my playtime short with that game.
Yeah.
And I can't remember why I didn't go back to it. But now hearing you talk about it makes me want to go back.
It's fun. I think it'd be fun to revisit right now when we're kind of in a like waiting for like March basically for all the heavy hitters to start dropping. Yeah.
Oh, I am in a Pokemon high right now, guys.
Same, dude. I started collecting cards again. And so I'm all in, bro.
I started up the newest anime, like the Journeys one. Yo, it's hype as fuck. Tim Geddes was right, but that's enough Pokemon.
Oh, is it really? Okay, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Chris, I'll talk to you after.
Yeah.
Okay, so in 5th place, there is a tie. There are 2 games that amounted 6 points, and those 2 games beat out 4 other titles, which I won't name yet because that will give away what's not above them. But at the end, I will name those 4 titles that got beat out by 1 measly point, except for Arceus, because where the points works, you know that 5 points for the number 1. So my Arceus missed it by 1 point, which is good. That's the point of the list. Like one person likes it shouldn't make the top 5. Tied for 5th, we have the other Pokemon game, Scarlet and Violet, with 6 points, and Stray, which I thought was very interesting.
Wow. Okay.
Very interesting. 2 very different games.
Yeah,
Pokemon was better.
Both animal based.
I mean, sure.
I vastly preferred Pokemon to Stray.
I
But
mean,
I like the cat and Stray better than
But it's cool that it's
Sprigatito
there.
and Sprigatito's Evolutions.
I mean,
Cool that it's
Stray
there.
ran good. That's got to give it a couple points.
Yeah, for sure. It's
I guess.
pretty.
So hold on. So reel it in a little bit. Who had Stray on their list? Josh.
I had it at
Brett.
number 2.
Okay.
I had it at number 2.
So I would
Yeah.
like to hear directly from Josh or Brett why you think Stray is rightfully in our top 5.
Oh yeah, it narrowed down. I was where I was looking to put this was in my top 3, and like I put it right at number 2, solely because I think we need more games like this. I'm tired of open world games where there's a fatigue in the market, and what a breath of fresh air Stray was. Like, not necessarily a triple A, but not like quite an indie. Like, there's a certain level of polish there. I'd almost say like
Double A, I
maybe
believe they call
double
that.
A. Yeah, and like what a absolute just gem this was. Free on PlayStation Plus, like for the new catalog and stuff like that, and a beautiful emotional like story with no human characters. Like, I thought that was incredible. Everyone was crying in the club at the end of that game, and it's fantastic. And people, I love, like, Twitter loves being like, oh, it's the cat game. It's like, bro, tell me you haven't played Stray without telling me you haven't played Stray. Like, come on, dude. Like that's it. Just to write it off as the cat game does so, like, it's just such disservice to the actual game.
I do
that's
think
there.
it's a compliment in the form that is the cat game, because there's a ton of cat
Yeah.
games now.
Yeah,
now
that's a good
Stray
point.
is the cat
The
game.
cat game, yeah.
Yeah.
There are no
Put that
other
on the
cat.
record.
Yeah, there's no other like cat games that
Well,
people
if
are
you
like. This is the cat game, bro.
Makes you feel like a cat, you know?
If you look at like the motion capture that they did at like with the cat and like all like they did like the full motion capture and like when I was editing that review, it really came through in the animation and everything. And they definitely Josh was saying, the polish was definitely there.
The amount of
I wanna
times,
see
the amount
a
of times,
cat.
sorry, the
Sorry,
amount of times
I-
I heard someone say, I'm going. It really makes you feel like a cat, and I'm like, is that good? Like, I don't know if that is
man.
like I understand it's not a negative, but like, all right, cool. It should.
Brett,
It was
I
in
want to
our
know
review.
Brett, where did it end up on your list, man?
I put it at number 4. Put it at number
Okay.
4. I was
Hell yeah.
waffling between 3 and 4 for that game for me. But yeah, I believe this was Blue 12's like first game, right? Isn't it? What I think they got nominated for like best debut game or
That
something
sounds
like
right.
that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like the story was very heartfelt and earnest, more than I initially thought, because I didn't really like look up what the game was about. Yeah, I love the linearity. The puzzles were like smart but not like obtuse. The music was great. Yeah, it was like all the surrounding like lore stuff about like humanity and everything like that. It was all super fascinating and fun, and then yeah, getting to experience it via the PlayStation like Plus collection, or not collection, but like the
Analog,
second
whatever
tier.
they call it.
yeah, that was like such a cool way that like, because I was going to subscribe to that anyways, I didn't have to drop $40 on that game alone to experience that, and so yeah, it was awesome.
Hell yeah.
And that game starts with the cat just like essentially falling off a cliff. So it's like, well, okay,
Brutal.
screw that. But
Yeah.
it panned out in the end.
Mhm.
That has been Stray. Who wants to talk about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Huh? A few people. have
Jordan,
that
go
on their
ahead.
list.
Jordan, go ahead. I put it on my list too.
So I know not everyone here is like a huge Pokemon fan, but like Chris, Austin, and Alec, I know you guys all played it and like Pokemon enough. For me, this was my number 2. And like I would say this is the most fun I had playing a game this year, not taking away from what my game of the year was. My game of the year was a little bit more subjective, and a game I still love. But this was like, I mean, go listen to our Pokemon Scarlet and Violet 2 weeks in review, where like I was having a blast with this game. It took up a majority of my Thanksgiving break. I was just it took me so long to beat that game, because I'd be like, let me head to this gym, and then I just see like a path and be like, where does that go, and end up like halfway across the map without realizing it. And the game, I could put every single issue this game has on a list, and they're all valid and they're all true, but there's just something about the game that makes me go, I kind of don't care. I don't care that it looks like shit. I don't care that it runs that bad.
So
Honestly,
I had to go and look it up. Oh, go ahead, Alec.
I was just gonna say on the performance thing. I've been playing it in handheld lately, and honestly, after that update, I've had little to no issues. Like there's
plays better
like
in
pop
handheld.
in, and like there's like a couple frame drops every now, but nothing like what was happening like before that patch. Like it is
That's a good
actually
point.
pretty stable.
It does run better in handheld, and I do have to agree to Jordan's point though, in that it's like it's so much fun that I don't care that it looks like shit. So I just pulled out my Switch to verify. I have put over 60 hours into it. It's probably the game like the game I played the second most behind one of my other choices for a game of the year, which means that I've played Pokemon Violet in these last few months the same amount of time that I put into Breath of the Wild, like as a whole. Just because I don't think I've been compelled to like complete the Pokedex since the original Red and Blue. I'm almost done. It's like I've been doing the raids. I've been going after like side quests and stuff in the game. I think there's something about just running around with friends and the way that the story and the goals are structured to that it's like this is kind of like the Pokemon game that I've wanted in a really really like since I was a child. I think when Legends came out, and maybe part of the reason that Legends didn't hit that is that Legends was almost there. Scarlet and Violet feels like gameplay wise it's there. And this was the thing this was the vibe and kind of gameplay that I've been waiting for a Pokemon game. It's a shame that it's as ugly as it is, but like this is the gameplay I've wanted out of the series for a really really long time, and I can't. This was also the game that I was referring to when I was like, man, I should have bumped it up a little bit higher than I had it. I think I had it 4th, and I would probably put it 3rd on my list.
Which would mean we wouldn't have had a tie, and we wouldn't have talked about Stray. Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do
for
think
me,
it's
this
worth
is
mentioning
Now we know which
that
one
we said.
is it.
Sorry. When we have 7 people on a podcast, it's going to happen. I do think it's worth saying that we're like, we don't care that it's ugly. That's not us writing it off. It shouldn't look as bad as it is. It shouldn't run as bad as it is. But it's just the gameplay is
the
there.
largest IP in all of existence. It has no excuses to run as poorly as it
It
does.
doesn't.
The issues within Pokemon, I think, are just. Oh, that again, I think could be a whole podcast on its own of like, why does it have the issues that it does? And I think it's that the Pokemon company as a whole kind of has to make everything lined up. Like the anime has to have the newest region in it, and the cards have to be pushing the newest Pokemon in it. And so and it all is based off the game. So if you delay the game, you are delaying the anime, you're delaying the trading cards, and then you're kind of getting people stuck with what's there. And I think for Pokemon fans I personally would be happy if like they were like the next 3 Pokemon games will have no new Pokemon. It's just different regional dexes made up of the 1008 that we have now. I think
That sounds so great.
but I also think realistically the reason that Pokemon has the longevity it is because every year without fail there is a new set of 5-year-olds that are buying the newest region. Like I think there are good and bad designs in every generation. I do think that this generation has some that I'm like, this is really the design you went for. Like it just has a couple of those choices. Regardless of what I think, that out there is someone's favorite Pokemon now. Like some kid who got their first Switch last year and got Pokemon this year. This is, you know what I mean? And so they have no excuses, but there's also Pokemon isn't just the games, and the games are actually what streamlines the rest of it.
Totally. We're moving on to another number 4.
Just gonna quick say, for me, it's like I think I had this in like number 8 or 9 in my top 10 list, and that's mostly because I just haven't had as much time as I would like to have had. Honestly, I think I've got like 3 gym badges, maybe 2 or 3 Titan badges, and then 1 star base cleared. So not a huge way to the game,
I think
but
there's just there's a surprising amount of stuff like buried under the surface of the game, and just so many quality of life things, like whether you're into like shiny hunting, competitive Pokemon. Like I mean, there's even just like kind of playing casually. Like there's so many things that just kind of take away all of like the little frustrations that tend to build up over time with older Pokemon titles that I just.
For sure.
It's just a fun game to play.
I love the fact that you can use auto battling. That saved me a lot of time.
Yeah.
So
It's very nice.
that was really great.
It's very nice.
Moving on, I think our number 4 slot is going to be a fan favorite because it was picked by most people second, if that made any sense. There was one more game that was picked more. This one had the second most mentions out of the group. Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga is our number 4
Let's
for the
go.
year. 4
Oh,
people
yeah.
had it on their list. Go ahead and take it away.
Josh, it's all you.
Man, oh man, I've been saying it since E3 2019 before I even knew all y'all. Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga Game of the Year. Holy shit, I can't believe this is real. This was a long time coming. Chris had me believing this game was canceled for a period.
I was just about to bring that up.
Is he accepting a winner speech? What's happening?
Oh my god, I am.
Let him
I
have
am.
his
I'm gonna
Christopher
get-
Judd moment.
I was 8 minutes straight. Oh, this game's fucking goated. For me, Game of the Year is like the quality of the game as well as your personal experience with the game because, you know, at the end of the day, it's art, it's subjective, it's your personal takeaways. And so Lego Star Wars is not only, you know, a revamp of the Lego formula in a like almost, I think maybe a new engine, brand new engine, new like layer
It's
level of-
absolutely a new engine, yeah.
new engine, new level of gloss. The amount of content is absolutely insane. Like it's just unfathomable. And then on the personal experience, I've never felt such nostalgia playing a game. Like booting this up, I was immediately transported back to like 2007, like holiday time playing, like booting up complete Saga for the first time on the 360. And I was like, holy shit, there's 6 movies on this disc in this Lego game. And I like exact same feeling booting it up on the PS5. I'm like, holy shit, there's 9 movies in here. And it's all content I love. And it's just, my God, it's fantastic. It was number one game of the year, man. Game of the year,
Nice.
dude.
It's
It
So
was his
really-
number 1.
It's wild to think about that the largest Star Wars video game experience that exists is a Lego game because
Yeah.
how huge this game is can't be understated, or can't even be overstated. Like I mean, it's in the Lego Star Wars, like the complete saga, for instance, you had like the Tatooine, you had the cantina, and a little bit of the area outside of it is kind of a hub world. Every fucking planet that's ever existed in Star Wars is a hub world in this game. You can just go to a planet and run around it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what time period. If it exists in a Star Wars movie, you can just run around in it in this game. And there's side missions and puzzles and story missions on all of them. It's absurd the amount of stuff to do that's in this game, and how good it looks is crazy. It's such a good looking game. Lego has never been that pretty. Like I mean, it's wild. You absolutely owe it to yourself to play this game if you're a Star Wars fan, especially if you've got like a kid or significant other who's wanting to get into gaming, like Star Wars, like Lego. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's a great.
No other
experience.
game lets you take control of. Damn it, the word escapes me. The
Abu
Rancor.
Frick.
A Rancor and go destroy Coruscant and just mine all of the studs that you
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
it's a genuine strategy.
need. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, man, for me, like, I wish this was higher on my list, but just because of my personal experience with the game, like, it only made it to my honorable mentions. Just because I played on PC at launch, and that was not the smoothest experience. Like, there was just some levels that it was just like, I'm not kidding, like 10 FPS. And it was like unplayable. Like that last level in Rise of Skywalker was just, it was rough. So it was just one of those experiences that like I had a good time otherwise, but just, you know, because bringing some of those bugs and performance issues into play, it didn't quite make it as high as I would have
You
liked.
got to play it on Game Pass now. You know.
Yeah, it
Put
is
up
on Game
the
Pass right now
Xbox,
too. Yeah.
Give it a shot. Plus,
Sorry,
they're adding
sorry,
new
don't mind me. Some
characters.
people want to be in my room while I'm recording, and also don't want to be on camera. Yeah, I'm looking at you.
How dare they? It could be anyone. It could be anyone. Who knows?
Who knows who it is? You know what I'm saying? It could be anyone. It's a mystery.
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill.
The
Brett,
one
was
and
this?
only.
Brett, was this on your list?
Yeah, I put it at number 5,
Same.
only because it's obviously a great game, and yeah, like so much content. Every Star Wars character under the sun. Jango Fett survives. Like, there's so many reasons why you like can love this game.
That's not true. I know he does live though. Actually, yeah, he does live. Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
The correct
and so, I just put it at 5 because I wanted it on there, but like certain games that I had higher had just like a stronger narrative or technical level that hit higher than Lego Star Wars did. And I think there's too much in this game. I think there's too much bloat because I'm trying to like chip away at the.
It's large. Imagine being like a 12-year-old with nothing to do though. Too, you know what I mean? If this game had come out when I was a kid, this would probably be my favorite video game ever made.
Yeah, you play it
Like-
for a whole year and then you fit like I do
Yeah.
agree that there's too much content, but I also think that this game isn't necessarily made for us, but they knew that we would play it. I think it is made for the kids now that like their dad is or their parents are getting them into Star Wars, and this is like the perfect game that just keeps on giving.
Yeah.
There's because I was also having like a really big issue with like wanting to kind of platinum it, but after I got done with like one section of Tatooine, and then I find out that there's a whole nother hub world on Tatooine once you get into the original saga, like I was just like I can't be doing this shit. Like I got a wife, I got dog. Like I need to. I
have a
have
job.
family that
Dog.
live for me.
I have a dog.
This
I
game
think-
lined up with the COVID lockdowns would have been perfect.
Oh yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
that was
dude.
definitely.
I
think-
that was when it was originally going to come out too.
Yeah.
They missed them. I mean, I'm glad the game came out and is as good as it is. But man, if they were able to have gotten it out then,
Like peak Animal Crossing time. Sorry.
Yeah,
but-
this one was also 5 on my list, and I think it's just because like I had Pokemon at 4, and I didn't get to play much of this game in co-op, and Pokemon I played a lot of in co-op, and that just kind of being like wish fulfillment of being like, oh, I get to run around with my brother and play Pokemon in a way that we hadn't before was really, really cool. And so I think the only reason that like all these other games kind of beat it out is for like stuff that sort of happens outside of the game itself, really.
Sure.
But I mean, this is still like one of the best Star Wars games, like period, that's ever been made, and it's so funny as well. Like,
Yeah.
the whole bit where in the intro of like Revenge of the Sith, you have these like battle droids like throwing a retirement party for one, and then Anakin crashes a ship into him right as he's about to like blow out the candles. It's so fucking funny. Like there's so many moments like that made me physically laugh out loud.
All the
It's
Sand
intros
unbelievable.
are great.
Yeah.
And they did a good job too of like of putting a fresh spin on the movies where you can still go back to the older ones if you really want to and play them and experience something that you don't get to experience in this one, and vice versa. So
I do think that just if you're just gonna run through and like Golden Path it mainline it, that the original trilogy does have like the strongest like campaign out of the 9 of them.
yeah,
It just felt like there was a little extra sauce put on the original movies.
mm-hmm.
So no
I'm
second
totally
Death
joking.
Star.
I just think it's ironic how we're like too much content. Nah, only got number 5. Too much content.
Yeah,
Like, of
yeah,
all
no,
things.
it's too much. Can't play it all.
I just
Man.
mean like when
No,
I'm like
you
on,
defended it fine,
when I'm-
adequately. I just it's
dude,
it's
when
comical
you're
to me.
hanging out with the Gungans for like 12 hours trying to collect all the like
Yeah.
bits, dude,
Yeah,
like,
it's
that's
a little much.
That's just
Yeah.
Oda Gunga. I still got to do the rest of Naboo, and then like all the, it's crazy.
You could have
See,
made those
they-
words up. I would have no idea.
They knew I was mentally ill enough to go for it, and I love just putting on a podcast or a homie's stream. You know, I'll
Did you
pop
do
in
it
someone's
all?
stream. I'm still chipping away at it, but
Yeah.
I'll go into a person's stream, lurk, and just play it with
I
stuff
can't.
on
I
in the
can't
background.
wait
I
until
love
I
it.
get a
Hiker
text
on
from you
one
in
screen.
3 years when you're like, I finally got the plat.
I was just gonna say something like that. 4 years from now, he's like, guys, I did it.
Yeah.
what if like
They've
Josh-
already made a sequel.
What if he spent too much time with the Gungans that like he turns off his switch? He's like, Misa needs to go to bed. Like he doesn't realize.
I do
Start
that
speaking.
anyways.
all right, all
It's
right.
like I call that Tuesday.
I do think we should move on to our number 3,
Absolutely.
the top 3 of the show. But before I do that, I want to say, Sorry. My phone went off.
Yeah,
And I peeked at it.
Yeah, don't
It's
forget
not
about
nice.
the Wii U eShop.
I'm
That's what
waiting
it
with
was.
bated breath.
Don't forget about the
That's what
Wii
it
U
was.
eShop.
The what?
The Wii U eShop. It's closing.
Never heard
man.
of it.
Okay, I'm putting my
March
phone down.
27th.
I apologize. I would like to remind the viewers that we are Shared Screens. We appreciate your viewership. If you like what you see, please click that little subscribe button, hit the bell, share our stuff, and follow us on all the socials. I'll be in the description below. On behalf of all of us here at Shared Screens, it genuinely helps, and it's beyond appreciated. Thank you.
Also,
Sorry,
if you
but
like
the
this
phone came.
podcast, we have a most anticipated games of 2023 that just went up. So check that one out. If you like
Type in the
Absolutely.
comments down below. What's your game of the year?
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, that's on
Predict
the
our
doc.
2023
Damn it.
game of the year.
I didn't
Gosh,
read the
that's
doc.
my
Oops.
closing thing. Now I gotta think of
Oops.
something else. Like, why would
Say it.
why would
Still
you
say
do
it.
this?
Just say it again. Just say it again,
Yeah,
and
you'll
pretend
just
Gotta
that
say
you
it.
remind them.
should
People,
say. You know
people
what
have
I mean?
short attention
Double down.
spans.
It's true.
Double down.
Maybe old Johnny and Jan are fucking doing yard work while they're listening to this, and by the time the podcast is done, they're done. So it'd be a perfect reminder.
Good old
Johnny
Johnny
and
and
Jan,
Jan.
you heard it here
that
first.
I'm glad that they're still around.
Yeah,
Talking
me too.
directly to
You know what I mean? I appreciate your viewership, Johnny and Jan.
Johnny
Doing
and
yard
Jan
work.
Johnson.
Yep.
a little behind the scenes thing. My phone popped up. A certain message popped up. I looked at it. Was like, nah, I can play through that. Started reading. Couldn't play through it. So I just,
Was it a bad message? Like was someone
It
mean to you?
was.
It was the weekly Wii U eShop deals.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna move on.
Number three.
So
Yep.
of our top
3.
three, the one getting our number 3 slot is a mobile game.
Ooh.
Marvel
Oh hell yeah!
Snap
Yes.
is our number
Yeah,
3
baby!
game of
Let's
the
go.
year. Game of the year. It gets 3rd place. This is the only game that I put in my top 5 that made our consensus top 5.
So when I said that Pokemon was the second most played game I played this year, Marvel Snap is far and away the game I played the most this year. I put an unbelievable amount of time into it, and I'm still in fucking pool 2. It's driving me insane. But I love it. I can't remember the last time that I enjoyed a card game this much. It's probably the late 90s, early 2000s when I used to play the Pokemon trading card game, right? Although I got back into it in college, but you know what I mean. Like, I mean, it's
Never understood that.
one of my biggest things with card games, as much as I enjoy playing like Pokemon and Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh and those sorts of things growing up, is just that deck building hurts my brain because you need like 60 cards. And I can't get into it. Whereas Snap, you have 12 cards. Games last 6 turns, sometimes 7, depending on if you get limbo or not. And it's
What does it say?
1,601 is my
Ooh.
whatever that green level is called. I was trying to show
Collector's
that, but I
level.
couldn't get it. Collector's
so
level.
you are absolutely in pool 3, maybe even pool 4. But
Played a lot.
yeah, I mean, it's just the smaller deck in turn sizes allowed me to actually like sit down and get into deck building and start like generating strategies and not just like going online and copying the way that other people do it. It's like I sit down and I mess around with it. You have tons of cool artwork in the game, which I think is super important for any card game, is to have tons and tons of really cool art, and it's just it grabs you, man. It grabs you and you just it's the ultimate, like, I can play one more game. I can play one more game before I do something else. No, let me just play one more game. I look up and that was 4 hours ago was when I first said let me play one more game. Like, I mean, it's just it's so good.
For me,
It's
like,
so good.
I find it's great. Like when I'm waiting for stuff that's cooking, just play a few games while I'm waiting for it to.
Yeah,
cook
'cause
something in the oven.
They're 3 minutes. Like, well, okay, the 3 minutes max thing is technically incorrect because you can get matches that go to 7 rounds or whatever, and then so that one's like 3.5 minutes. But it's like whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. You get the point. It rounds out to about.
I'm gonna play a game right now.
Right now, he's gonna do it right now. But yeah, I did the
I'm
same
doing
thing.
it right
Where
Throw
card
back to when he
games-
did this with COD Mobile.
Yeah.
Card games have never grabbed me, but you slap Marvel on there, and I at least downloaded it, and that was my flaw. I shouldn't have downloaded it. Here I am. It's my number 2 game of the year, personally.
It's a
So,
cool IP
very high.
with great gameplay. Can't beat
Yeah.
that.
I've kept
You gonna play
Gamora in
Squirrel
my
Girl?
deck for far too long just because her artwork is so fucking fire. Like, I love
Do
the
you have like
Gamora
the
artwork.
cool like alt one with like her hair's like real big and
Yeah,
No?
yeah, I
Okay,
do.
never
I just like the
mind.
OG
Okay.
one, and like I have it upgraded to like a holographic and shit, but I still run the OG one because I just think it looks so fucking dope.
yeah.
Part of me uses like the old cards to make them think I'm not that skilled.
Mhm.
Like I just started, or which doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense with our levels, but you know what I mean.
Isn't that like what people in Fortnite do? Like they'll play as a no
Yeah.
skin so people think they're a noob.
Yeah.
I do it. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, Marvel Snap is great, and I played on my lunch break at work, and that's why I have so much time in it. And there are times where I'm like, I'm not gonna play. I'll just scroll TikTok for a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I'll just play one game.
Yep.
that
the same exact
was
way.
my mistake.
Yep.
My mistake.
Yeah, for me it was number 4, and just like both reasons you guys have already said, like easy to pick up, just short amount of time, and it's easy to understand how decks work together. Like you have your on reveals, your ongoings, discard, destroy, are kind of your 4 main groups of cards. And it's so easy to just build the themes around those kind of card effects. And what's really cool too is that how they mix things up is I would say every other week, or maybe even every week at this point, they have a different featured location that shows up more often. So like when the game was first coming out, they had Carmartage, which was the effect of that is on reveal effects happen twice at that location. So everybody was basically running the Odin White Tiger combo.
Yep.
Yeah, genuinely.
Everyone.
Yeah. So it's just one of those it's really cool just seeing what kind of the meta is. Like even for a while there, it was kind of destroy decks were just running wild. And I recently made one, and that's honestly might be one of the most fun decks to play.
I love my destroy deck. Fucking Bucky Barnes and Carnage are my dynamic duo. I even have Venom in there just in case, and Sabretooth.
I'm actually playing against somebody that's running a Carnage Deathlock Winter Soldier right now.
Yep,
Hell
that's
yeah.
what I got for my
good
game.
one.
He just
a good
lifts
one.
up his phone to find out he's the one.
I've been playing this whole time.
Well, what's really cool too with this is that it's also
That's a dub.
on Steam, so you can, and it syncs across if you sign in with the same account, so you can play on PC. So there's times where I just throw up a stream or a podcast, and I'm just playing that on there, and it looks great. It runs.
I got really excited when I found out it was on Steam. I was like, I can play it on the go. And then I went, wait a minute.
I'm currently running what I call a ones deck, where I just have a bunch of ones, and then Khazar, and then Infinite, that dude.
Infinite, yeah.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wipe the floor as long as they don't have a Killmonger. If they have a Killmonger,
You're
screwed.
fucked. You're
But-
fucking
that's a big
Killmonger.
There's been a few times where they throw a Killmonger too early, and I can still I can recover from that, and I'm like, haha. But yeah, if they don't have a
Sunspot's
Killmonger,
really
I
cheap.
have a 80%.
Plus like the
win rate.
new the current battle pass at time of posting right now too is the Savage Lands one, and so like the new card in that one, Kazu, turns all 4 cost cards into 2 costs, which is absurd.
Yeah, I feel like that was kind of pay to win when that first came out. I'm not gonna lie.
It's disgusting how good that one is. But the thing is like that's not the only way to get the card. It's like every time that there's always like one new battle card in the battle pass that is usually like the final reward for it, and it comes just kind of in the next pool of cards. If you have the battle pass, you get it early. So it's pay to win in that it's like, yeah, you can have a blatantly better card earlier than people that don't have the battle pass, but you're not also fucked without it.
Yeah, battle passes are only a month. So, and like I've already seen like Kazu kind of get played out. Like I don't see him as often as like when the card first came out. Seems to be a nice set of counters for it, which like speaks to how well the gameplay is designed. That I feel like
Game feels
even though
really
it's not
balanced.
even though it's not the meta, I still run into people that run the White Tiger Odin combo, and sometimes they kick my ass. Like if you have a good deck, you'll do well.
Yeah, I think there's enough options there to where you don't necessarily have to play meta. Like there's enough off meta decks that'll still like kick ass to where it's like it's a really really easy game to get in and just kind of fuck around with.
Someone who's in pool 4 or whatever, as you put it, Chris. Maybe I don't know where I'm at. I just play the game. My deck that I use primarily, I think I had all those cards super early on. Like I'm running a ones deck, so I really think that the one that may have taken the longest was what's his name, Sunspot.
I love
Sunspot.
Sunspot.
Yeah, because he's a pull 3 card. Yeah,
Sunspot took me a bit to get, but every other one, yeah, I think I had maybe Ebony Maw, maybe. I'm not sure.
He's pull 2.
Is he pull 2? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Ebony Maw with Sunspot by themselves can hold a location, and it's really cool. So yeah, whatever. Anyway, that's enough on.
Along with Professor X, he could fuck people with that.
Yo,
Yeah.
the amount of times I have like a destroy,
that's really fun. Fucking hold on.
with like Nova,
idea.
Bucky, and like a fucking Sentinel, and I'm about to throw down my Carnage, and then they lock it down with Professor X.
Imagine just not playing any cards until turn 4.
Yeah, armor sucks too. Anyway.
My second deck is a Dino deck, which is just the Devil Dinosaur, and I just have literally any card that gives me cards in my hand. That's what's in that. That's what's in that deck. That's it, and I win most of the time.
Devil Dinosaur, Moon Girl, and Spider-Man are really, really big right now too.
I don't have Spidey yet.
I don't have Spidey. I have Spidey, but I don't have him in that deck. Maybe I should put him.
But Spidey prevents people from playing cards at that location next turn, and so you double him with Moon Girl, and you can play both of them on like turn 4. And so turn 5, they just can't play anything. It's fucking awesome.
That's a big reason why. Sorry, we need to move on. But on Marvel Snap, I added Jessica Jones to my ones deck because I almost never play anything on turn 5 anyway. So I'm just like, this makes sense. Yeah. So I'll just put that in there, and it's worked so far.
I love Jessica Jones.
Yeah,
just in general, not even the card, just in general, she's great.
But especially the card. Yeah. The show was really good.
Oh, okay,
the card's really good. Yeah, show's good, card's good too.
I spoke out of turn. I've spoken out of turn. How dare I? Okay, so moving on to our runner-up for Game of the Year. I'm sure we can guess at least one of 2 games this is going to be. Taking our number 2 slot is Elden Ring.
Oh my god, are you fucking kidding me? There's no way.
Number 2.
I thought this was not going to make it into the list at all. Holy fuck.
Honestly, same.
I'm genuinely surprised it got a live there because it wasn't on my list at all.
Who voted it up onto the list, Austin?
I assume Brett did.
You did, Brett?
Let me look.
Hell yeah. I want to hear. Everybody knows I got a lot to say about this game.
So,
I want to hear from you first.
I didn't say. So just real quick. Marvel Snap was put into 3 people's lists, and so was Elden Ring. And since Elden Ring had 15 points, that means everyone who put it on there, it was their game of the year.
Oh wow!
Wow!
Hell yeah, dude!
That should not be. That should not be
3 of you.
Overstressed.
The third is Bo, right?
Bo for sure.
The third one is Bo.
I
believe it's Bo, Chance, and Brett. I believe.
Hell yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Damn.
All right, Brett, take it away.
I'm just gonna turn my mic off.
I've been a Souls hater, man, for 10 years. About that when I first tried Dark Souls 1.
A decade.
And Elden Ring made me a believer, man. I literally just bought Dark Souls 1 a few days ago. I'm gonna try that out. I think the art design is amazing. The music is amazing. Like every time I booted that game up, I got so hyped to jump in.
I'm getting cold chills just thinking about that intro music.
Oh, dude, when it kicks in,
that's why I used it for the hype promo.
Yeah, when it kicks in for the final fight too, like, oh my gosh, like amazing.
There's that clip of Andy when he runs into it and he hears he hears the music and he's like, "Oh, that's the theme, that's the theme," and I'm like, I don't even know why I'm hyped. Why am I hyped? Because I've never played this game.
Yeah. Like the world design, the level design is just like it feels so well crafted and like the personal details like are just jumping out everywhere. It honestly reminds me of like Breath of the Wild and Hyrule in that regard. I just think it's one of the defining gaming experiences of this year, let alone the last 5 years or more. So and if I can, like, I hated those games and it made me a believer. So I do think you should give it a shot if you haven't. And if you really are struggling like I was, just XP farm and then you'll be okay.
100%. 100% XP farm. Look up a guide. Like, you do not need to make this harder on yourself than the game is already hard. You don't need to make it harder on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I am happy to say I bought Elden Ring on sale. All right.
Same.
I will give this a go. I am not promising anything.
You all are friends of mine on fucking Discord. Hit me up. Like,
I will be hitting you up.
Walk you through anything.
Here's what I did as an Elden Ring noob. I looked up a zone guide to know what levels are where you're supposed to be at for different parts of the map. Because literally when I started Elden Ring, I just wandered around and I went to the peninsula, like the South Peninsula.
Oh yeah,
which is like the 3rd or 4th zone you're supposed to be at. And because it was the first place I went to, I got my ass kicked, and I was like, okay, this sucks. Like I almost quit right there. I looked up a zone guide, so I didn't have like this step-by-step guide to like spoon feed me. I actually got to still like explore and find things out on my own. But I knew like, hey, now I can go to this area because I'm the right level. That's what you should do. so that you can still have like that fresh experience.
So Elden Ring and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have a very key similar issue: no fucking level scaling.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
absolutely just get stomped on in both games.
yeah. Elden Ring makes it like very clear when you're wandering into an area by just like
Gotcha.
kicking the shit out of you before you get too far into it. Like, hey, you're not supposed to be here yet. Because one of the main issues with the game, I think, for new players like Brett, is that there's so many high level areas kind of bordering where you're supposed to start. And I think part of the issue is that those high level areas funnel you to where you're supposed to be going, but players that are new to the games don't necessarily know that kind of game design speech. And I think veterans of the games kind of understand that, and that is like one of my issues with the games is it's really easy to find yourself in an area you're not supposed to be. Like Caelid is like right next to the starting area, and that is like a very, very hard area.
Yeah.
When we went to the Game Awards in IMAX, I told Bo that if the game is ever on Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, I will give it like the good old college try. The one
Same
thing
here.
that I personally still can't get behind is like the whole no, not having a quest log makes the game better. That's the one thing I'm still like, I don't want to keep a journal for a game.
And I think like
The-
that's where like the guide comes in. Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna say, like, I've finished Bloodborne. I'm like slowly chipping away at the plat. Like, I have no problem with from. Yeah. I'm like I come back to it every now and then. Too far
Bro.
and too little and far between. But I love Bloodborne.
It's my fucking favorite game of all time.
Because Demon Souls is on PS Plus, like I want to play that. I bought Sekiro during the pandemic for dirt cheap. Like I got these games. The thing that's like scaring me is the open world element and just being thrown in from software and then being like, all right, good luck. You know, that's the thing that like
Yeah,
So they've
terrifies
actually
me.
added since launch, because I have played the game again recently. They have added in like where the teleport like locations are at. They tell you who's there. They don't tell you if you have something to say to them, but like if somebody moves, because that's a kind of a theme in these, is that as you progress through the game, certain NPCs will move and their stories along with it. So that way you can kind of keep track of where everybody is. They did take like that into consideration because it is such a big world. So since like me and Brett like first played it, like they have added in more accessibility. It doesn't change the fact that the quest system is really hard to understand. And I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the gameplay. Although I do understand like Jordan and Josh's complaints about like I just want like to know that that was a thing I need to pay attention to and kind of where I need to go
Yeah.
next.
Like, and I get
And it's always been a Souls thing too. As somebody that's like I Dark Souls 3 is actually one of my favorite games like ever made. I've been working my way through Sekiro and I'm fucking loving it. But I think I just kind of prefer FromSoft games that are linear.
Yeah, and my
I
favorite
like having my I like starting at point A and them saying here's point B and I go cool. And there's none of that in Elden Ring and I think that was a big part of why it
See-
just didn't make my list.
See, I'd argue there it is, because once you get into different dungeons, then it is like when you get into the academy, it's you're at the beginning and you just got to go through it and then get out of it. So it is
Sure,
that's
sure,
a
but I
plus
mean,
world.
there is also like a sense of like, hey, if you're gonna get into these dungeons first, there's other stuff you got to do outside of it. You got to be a particular level. I mean, it's like I'm not saying hold my hand and tell me everything I need to know, but give me something.
So
Yeah,
in
a
Elden Ring, they
direction.
do have these beacons of light that kind of point you in the direction that you're supposed to go next in the open world. And for me personally, I found that very instrumental because I was able to take the path of least resistance through the swamp area leading up to the Carrion Castle. And then I had a direct route with a bunch of different spawn points that are in this giant open world. So they do feel like they kind of address that. And then once you get to the Carrion Manor, that is a linear place where they say you start here, you need to go to the fucking throne room, and then you just go through it like a regular Souls thing. I understand that that's still kind of like hard to read into, but kind of getting into it, I think from a technical standpoint, taking everything that they learned from software, like this is a true masterpiece. It's not my favorite Souls game, and I do think it's too big. I think there's too much content in it, and I think it's not as replayable as something like Sekiro or Bloodborne or the Dark Souls games. Having said that, this is the Breath of the wildification of Dark Souls, and I think the way that they implemented the systems and the way that the environmental storytelling plays out. Brett brought up this peninsula. At the beginning of the peninsula, you run into a young lady and you have a conversation with her, and she talks about somebody, and then you meet them later on in the story down into the peninsula, and they have something that they want to say back to the lady. And when you go back to the lady, the story continues, and it's very heartbreaking. And just those little touches, I think, is like you can walk past her and never even fucking know she's there, because the only thing that you know that like can tell you is, because she's behind a bush, is you kind of hear her faint crying. So all you like really need to do is like go look for the faint crying, and then like this whole story unfolds.
I did
I
like
think,
quest line. It was very cool.
yeah, and I
It
think
was very cool. Yeah.
the the accessibility in this game, where you can have a mimic tier and you get a carbon copy of yourself with your complete loadout to help you through those tougher bosses. I think while these games are notoriously difficult, they have made steps in this game specifically to make it more approachable, which I recognize isn't enough for some people, but as somebody who would like to see more people get into these games, I see it as like a very clear delineating step forward. Now, could they add more accessibility options like God of War Ragnarok? Of course they could. And while I do understand their mythos of like making an easy mode defeats the purpose of the game, I also think that there's a middle ground they can come to continue to make these games more accessible. And that's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to Armored Cores, because I think that's starting from base, it'll be a lot easier to put those in. So don't fuck it up, FromSoft. All right, I'm going out on a limb saying I can see how you're trying to make these things more accessible.
You got a lot of new fans, I think, with Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Because it's like one of the highest selling games like of the generation.
I have never had a feeling like when I beat Millennia. I know it's a played out boss and it's played out for a reason. It's because like that was the single hardest thing I had to do ever in a video game. And when I did it at 2:00 on a Tuesday, like 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, like I have never had such a euphoric feeling of like I fucking did it. And that carried me. I was having a shitty week, and that like carried me through to the weekend, which is kind of what I needed at that point. And
There are a few other games that generate sort of like community legends. Like I think most people are familiar with like Let Me Solo Her, right? And stuff like that of a video game that's literally able to just kind of create like this online legend of a human being just because he's like it just goes into like one of the hardest boss fights ever conceived in his fucking underwear, and it's like I can do this on my own, and just like helps people clear it for him. Like it's so fucking funny.
Like the dude who beat Dark Souls with the Donkey Kong bongos.
Yeah, or the person that's currently playing through 2 copies of Elden Ring at the same time, one on controller and one on a dance pad.
Yeah.
Dude, she's a badass. She is an absolute badass. I do, like, as a kind of member in this community, I do want to, like, for people that are looking into getting into the games, I don't want any of these subreddits of, like, that's not the correct way to play the game. If the mechanics are in there, the devs meant for you to use them. And so by any means necessary, use what you need to complete these. And if you get shamed online, it's them being fucking idiots. Like, I don't subscribe to that whole idea that you can't use incantations or you can't use the mimic tier. Like, do whatever you need to, because I feel like the experience of the game is worth it.
Now, I just want to ask a quick question, as you being like the Dark Souls expert of the group, or the From Software expert of the group. Do you think that they're going to make Armored Core a Souls-like, or do you think because that game came before that they initiated that design philosophy, they're going to stick more traditional with Armored Core?
I can see them taking some of like the level design philosophy or like some of the lighter notes, but they've come out and been pretty clear that they're not making a Dark Souls with mechs, and I do believe them, but I also think that they're going to take a lot of what they've learned combat-wise and implement it into the game. So I don't think it's going to be necessarily as hard as Dark Souls, because if you look at their games, like they've gotten easier as time goes on with accessibility and everything. And so I don't think it's going to be as hard as those games, but I do think it'll have some of the same mechanics, if that makes sense. But I mean, if you look at Dark Souls and Sekiro mechanics, it's in Jedi Fallen Order, it's in God of War even. So I do, like, that's kind of a broad statement to say, but I do think that for people that want to understand what people are talking about with From Software games, I think that may be a good jumping on point. I also think that Sekiro is like the easily approachable game combat wise out of the bunch still to this day. I do think Dark Souls really throws a wrench in the system with the timing of strikes and everything. And they did that on purpose for like veterans of the games, but I digest.
I was just gonna say before we moved on, because I'm only like 2.5 hours in, so I'm like scratching the surface literally, and that moment where you're going up from the tutorial area and you see Limgrave for the first time, chills.
And that's not even like one of my top fives. Like I know like that is like one of the best moments, but the game is those moments in spades. Like every time you crest a mountaintop, you see I'm getting cold chills thinking about like the first time that I found a particular area or a particular enemy and just like kind of seeing this all unravel in front of me, or like there's a bridge. I that's all I'm going to say. And like when I see the bridge and I make it across and I look back at what the bridge actually is, like it is just awe-inspiring, the level design that they have in these games.
Was there a troll whose like riddle you had to answer?
No trolls really wanted to talk to me, except for one. One was pretty dope. He was the friend of Blythe.
They do mostly want to smoosh you.
Yeah, they mostly want to smooch you with them big old mitts.
Oh.
And that's another thing, is I think that the side characters in this game are the best. Sorry, that's all I was going to say. Blythe and Ronnie the Witch, they're fucking goated.
Okay, fair enough. I do think we should move on
Yep.
to our number one. But I have a question. Do we want to go over the 4 that barely missed the list before I get to the game of the year, or after?
Yeah, let's do
Let's
that.
let's do it before. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all know what the game is.
Yeah,
It was one or two. It's one of two choices.
Yeah.
Okay. So the 3 titles, because Legends Arceus is in this category because it was my game of the year, so it also received 5 points. The other 3 are Destiny 2 Witch Queen.
Hey,
Got 5 points. I think Alec had that pretty high.
that was my number 2.
This is number 2. Vampire Survivors, which Bo and I had fairly high.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
my... Oh, I only had it at number 4. I apologize. But it was on my list. I love Vampire Survivors. I love the strategy
I've been
and
getting
the
into it
replayability
lately.
of that game. It's so great. And Horizon Forbidden West did not make our top 5 at one point. But it was
'Cause it was
mentioned
boring.
by, I think...
Sorry, I did that. That was mean.
It was my number 5.
3.
No, I'm sorry, that was mean.
My number 4.
It was mentioned by 3 people. So
That was my number.
I got
4.
like 40 hours into it and realized I wasn't even fucking halfway done, and I was like, I can't play this game
See,
anymore.
I was 8 hours into it, and then Witch Queen came out.
I think I was like 20 hours in when Elden Ring came out, and then I went back to it.
The Horizon curse,
it's
man.
incredible that it came out just
Almost
before like 2
another
like
genre-defining-
genre-defining games came
Yeah,
out.
hey,
Like,
hey,
Just like it did the
first-
first time.
first,
Fingers crossed in February, the next like biggest VR game in the world drops a day after the Horizon VR game drops, and because I personally I want to see VR grow, man. So it's like Horizon, come on, third time.
There's a Horizon release. Something else is coming out.
I do
Half-Life
think-
Alex 2.
I do think as much as I enjoyed Horizon, there was too much game there. I think that the first game also kind of suffered from this, where
common
the
theme for you, Chance.
Game too
but
big.
I'm also-
7 out
I
of
feel
10.
like as I become an adult and like I want 100%.
I get it.
These
I
games,
agree.
Fans wants every game to be like Stray.
Horizon. I said 40 hours. I think I did get about 20 hours into it and give it up. But Horizon committed one of my biggest cardinal sins of just like open world RPGs, in that the side quest is not the side content is not optional. In order to stay at the level that the main quest requires you to do, you have to do so like X many side quests to get up. So I'll be enjoying the story, I'll be having a good time, and then it'll be like, hey, you're 4 levels behind the next quest now. You got to go do some other bullshit that you don't care about.
Yeah.
Because fuck me, the side quests in that game are awful.
the character,
and
like
it
the crew
just became too
specific
much.
ones are really good. I like those ones, but I do
Yeah.
agree with you on the other ones. I feel like there was definitely tiers of side quests, and oftentimes like the shittiest side quest reaped the best rewards, but like helping that Tanakh guy get a robotic arm and like his whole like side quest of
Yeah,
like
man.
self-understanding and self-acceptance, I thought was really good. But I do think
Yeah.
that there was like some severe story misbeats later on in the game with some returning characters and some new characters. I thought it just kind of like all happened way too quickly at once.
The game
Yeah,
wants the players to play it as an RPG more than I think most of the players want to.
Yes.
Like, especially with PlayStation games being usually more linear-ish. Not saying that PlayStation doesn't make any RPGs, but like Horizon's the most RPG one that they make. And there's just something about the RPG mechanics in it with me that like I don't want to play it like this. Like I'm cool with you need ice weapons for these types of monsters and whatever. But in terms of like, oh, now we're adding in the armor and poison. And then like you guys are saying with leveling up and just being underleveled. This game was also just like kind of doomed for me because I was just gonna say it was such a slow drip of me playing it because I was playing it as I was finishing up school. So it was just like whenever I had a chance, it was like little chunks at a time. And so I was just mainlining it and it was just too fucking hard at some points.
The game is at its best when you're fighting some giant robot monster and you've got all of your traps and all of these other things set up, and you're systematically taking it down piece by piece and using these traps to take advantage of like the type advantages and those sorts of things. And it's like having this almost like Monster Hunter level of like preparation meets execution is when the game is at its best.
That's a really good way to put it.
The game thinks the best part of it is the story and the RPG mechanics, and I can't. It's not, and it's like I don't want to be doing those things. I want to be fighting giant robots, and the amount of times that you're not fighting giant robots, you're listening to people that you're going to spend 10 minutes with talk for 15 minutes.
Yeah,
the tutorial area is huge too. Like I never even got out of the
as someone.
I never made it to the Forbidden West. I played it like 20 hours.
As someone who's actually like finished the game and has the platinum, like I really enjoyed it. I just thought this was like an absolutely just stacked year. I love the story elements. I love like exploring just like Las Vegas in the game, just like landmarks and all that.
Best part of the game, hands down,
incredible.
Story-wise, the looks they give it. Oh, that was the highlight. That is the part of the game I will remember 10 years from now.
The places where it goes and what it sets up for a potential third game is fucking bonkers, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But like, yeah, Horizon's just always going to be like literally the redheaded stepchild, and just everyone's going to fucking dunk on it for weird, like, for some fucking reason. But it's good.
I wanted to like it more than I did.
It's my number 4 as well, Chance. Yeah,
like
I think it got left.
It was a really good game. It's just,
I think it got left off my list because I was so disappointed by it. To where it's like, and I really liked the first game a lot. But I do think that like the farther RPG-ness of it, of spending more time having to upgrade every single one of my goddamn weapons, like every few quests, having to go and do side stuff, like required to go do side stuff to keep the main quest going, was just stuff that I was like, I'm not into this, man. It didn't hit for me.
See, I think I was out hunting like dinos enough on like just my own and kind of like getting leveled up that I never really ran into like the issue of not being like under leveled for. But also, like, I would do a story mission, and then it's like, all right, fuck that. I'm going to go hunt some dinos real quick. And then I'd spend 6 hours going and taking down the velociraptors, and then I'd get back to it.
I didn't even have to do... game. Oh, sorry, I was just saying, I spent the entire game only being able to mount one type of animal because I didn't have the materials to blueprint the others, and I didn't feel like farming any.
Oh shit! I farmed, and I didn't have to play side content to progress the story. Didn't have to even play side content for the platinum. It was like fantastic.
Which that's great, but it's a shame that having to be farming is what makes that experience smoother, though. Because the moment you put grinding and farming into a game, I'm out. Like I hate doing that shit.
I mean, it's half grind and then half like activities, but.
And I get that, but I mean, I just wasn't interested in it
too. Like we wanted to go out and like hunt the dinos and shit, and so it was kind of like you can either do the side stories or like we're gonna give you XP for being a huntress or a brave or whatever they call her.
Okay. Yeah, and so I enjoyed a lot of what I played with it, but it's overall just
a hefty discussion for a game that did not make our top 5.
Right?
That's very comical to me.
That's just how stacked this year has been, though.
Like, it's been a good year for games. Been a good year for games.
Sure, we can all tell which title earns our award of Game of the Year for 2022. But I do think it's worth mentioning that's the one and only. I do think it's worth mentioning that this game had 11 more points than second place.
Jeez.
Wow.
Damn.
The only 2 people that didn't have it in their top 5 were me and Bo. Everyone else had it on their list, and I think the lowest it was number 2.
So what you're saying is, Austin, is that shared screen's game of the year is God of War Ragnarok, and it's not even
How'd
close.
you know? How'd you know? That's crazy.
We had a hunch.
And here's what I want to say, because I don't have too much to say because it's not my top 5. It was my number 6. Okay, it barely missed my top 5. The narrative of this game is some of the best writing I've ever seen in a game, especially coming off being a sequel of one of my favorite games ever. I was like, oof, I don't know how they're gonna like wrap all this up when it was supposed to be a trilogy to begin with, and they fucking nailed it. The narrative of this game is fantastic. Well done.
Yeah, it was lowest on my list at 3. Like in terms of everyone here is like, yeah, number 3 for me. But Ragnarok good. That's all I gotta say. It's more God of War, but Ragnarok good.
I had like one of the hardest times of my life trying to figure out
poor chance, dude.
What game was
having
game
to
of the
debate
year.
between Elden Ring and God of War.
It was honestly like going back and forth, because while I think Elden Ring like spoke to me personally, there is just so like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that game and about the story beats and about the areas, and it was honestly like one of the hardest decisions. And I don't know. I think that really speaks to the game, where it is a sequel, and I think it having sequelitis is what bumped it down from number 1 for me. But just being able to live up to those expectations, I'm really into Norse mythology and the fervor and kind of like the way that they took the mythology and twisted it into their own thing. I really appreciated. It's kind of what you expect but different, as like a fan of the lore. And anyway, I was on the spoiler cast, so I want to give my time up to some people that haven't been able to talk about it.
I think my one gripe, quote unquote, with the narrative, because I love the narrative, it's like my favorite narrative in a game in a long time, is that, and this isn't me thing, the whole Loki angle wasn't really a thing, in my opinion. Like, they didn't lean into that, like, at all. I think, like, Loki as a character in mythology, like how he's a trickster and that kind of stuff, like, that was just a name they threw out, and that was kind of it. I know he, like, talks to animals and shit, but, like, I don't know. I don't feel like they utilized that twist enough, but it could be me.
In the mythology, Loki killing Balder is, like, the beginning of Ragnarok, and so I think it is more of, like, I felt like it was a treat for me, because a lot of the things that he did through the games are things that he did in mythology, but he didn't do them the way that they were supposed to happen in mythology. And
yeah,
so,
like him like having the ability to speak to and turn into animals, I think was really, really cool. And yeah, I mean they definitely lean into the fact that he's a giant, and that's a big part of like his character and the story. And yeah, I think you lose a lot of like the trickster angle in this, but I did really enjoy kind of like exploring a side of Loki that you don't really see in a lot of media and stuff. It is a shame to lose that, but at the same time, I can also applaud them for not being like, "Hey, here's in the MCU's Loki, but in something else." Like,
here's young.
I can say them wanting to not have not have that direct comparison.
I agree. I just think some of it felt like they utilized Loki for his accomplishments and what he did, like the events, rather than him as a character. If that makes sense. And it's their Loki, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they did anything wrong, but yes, it just felt a little off to me in that, because like that was a huge twist at the end of the first game, and then I don't feel like they utilized the Loki mythology in the sequel. But yeah, it could just be.
I mean, he brings around Ragnarok. I do feel like the character of Loki, that is like one of his main things, is he ends the rule of Odin. And if you look at like traditional mythology, people would think he's a trickster because of the way he was playing Odin and the Asgardians and stuff. And I understand where you're coming from, but just like for me personally, this was kind of like a really awesome retelling from a different narrative of who this Loki character was. Because like, of course Thor's not going to like him. Of course, like Odin's not going to like him because he betrayed them. And so the stories that are going to get told about him. Anyway.
What a surprise Thor was. I really enjoyed his character. Too,
yeah. I know everybody was comparing him to Josh Brolin, but I really think that actor who played Opie in Sons of Anarchy, I forget his name, I thought he made that character his own.
And that was
one of the shining characters in that game for sure.
And the way they turn him into like a what's the fucking term for it?
Alcoholic father.
Punk.
No, well, I mean, no, I was
What's that word? What's that word?
Yeah, well, yes, but also no.
Sympathetic?
Yeah, like the way they turn him into a sympathetic villain because they spend the entire first game like just like shit talking him the whole time. Oh, he's just this stupid drunk brute the whole time, and that's how he portrays at the beginning of the game, and then you realize like, oh, this motherfucker's he's got demons that he's fighting, man. Like there's a reason behind this. He's also not that smart. He's being fucking gaslit, girl bossed by his dad, right? I mean, it's just all these other things. To where there's layers to every single character and every single interaction that not only is like just good in this video game, but I think is just a testament to the strength of these writers compared to like any media property. Like you rarely see writing on of this caliber in television or films or that sort of thing. You then have like the graphics and the gameplay on top of it. The gameplay I fucking love. I have a genuine bone to pick with the criticism that a lot of people are like, it's more God of War. I was like, did you play more than like 20 minutes of it? Because it's so much deeper than the original game, just in terms of in combat alone. That I thought they expanded on it in an absolutely brilliant way. And the soundtrack fucks Bear McCreary was in his Duffy so goddamn hard, and he did that song with Hosier that I've listened to maybe a million times at this point, and that they played at the Game Awards. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation now after it's been out for a while, so I'm able to like sit and think about it. But this is my favorite video game that's ever been made. I can't think of a single thing that I dislike about it. I think it's real close to being that too much game. Like it's rubbing right up on the ceiling of it. It's rubbing right up on the ceiling of being of our criticism of too much game. But I mean, everything about this game I adore. Like 10 out of 10, no question, no notes. You know,
the side stuff in this game never felt necessary because I didn't do any of it. I was just
I did all of it.
pathing this game.
It's not necessary, but it 100% adds.
But it fucks.
And I'm not denying that, but I just like. If Horizon had like the limitations on it that God of War did, I think I would enjoy that game way better.
Oh, 100%. I think that's
to our other conversation. As for Ragnarok, all I'm gonna say is I'm still thinking about to grieve deeply is to have loved fully. Yep. That quote fucked me up.
I literally wrote down that entire quote. Like I had paused the game. I like looked up a YouTube video, wrote it in my notes app just because. Yeah, that is on a similar vein to like the WandaVision quote.
Dude, there's the WandaVision quote, there's this one, and then there's Andrew Garfield in an interview when he was talking about his mom. He said, all grief is just that unexpressed love. And those three quotes about grief, I think, nail, and like they're all very good. If anyone's in their feels.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Alec?
I was just going to say this when we're talking about side quests. Like, it's just one of those things, like, they're not necessary, but, man, they flesh out characters so damn well. Like, and not even that, but, like, there's one of them that in Alfheim, after you kind of do the main quest there, you unlock basically this larger area you can go explore. And that side quest...
You unlock, like, a whole ass video game inside the video game, dude.
Oh, no, that's Vanaheim. I'm talking about Alfheim.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, I misheard you. I'm so sorry.
Because the side quest you do in Alfheim is basically like you're rescuing this like animal god spirit
native
thing.
Species,
yeah.
Oh, that was really good.
And like for me, like that's a quest that like I resonated with. A side quest I resonated with so much just because there's a quote or that Mimir says that really made me think of a personal experience I've had so many times with my dad, and this game just hits on that emotional level. Like I tweeted this out when I beat the game that there's been games that made me tear up. There's been even fewer that made me cry. This was the first game to make me ugly cry from the ending. Mm-hmm. Like
I think the resignation of like or the son and father dynamic hit a lot of us like really really hard.
So I can't think of another game that has taken something that's happened in just like through the way like the mechanics of the game work. So let me rather than try and describe this. So to get into major God of War spoilers, I don't know why you'd be watching this if you haven't played the game, but like at the end of the game, like Atreus leaves, and any side content that you haven't completed already, you do with Freya. A huge part of what's going on, especially in that side content, especially in that quest that Alec mentioned, throughout it, Atreus keeps being like, look, I know this thing isn't important. We can go do something else. Like, you're probably not that interested. And then eventually, at the end of it, Atreus is like, why'd you do this for me? Or it's like
That's the
there's no benefit to us. And Kratos was like, I did it so I could be with you, so we could do
Oh, no, that was Mimir.
just because I get.
Yeah,
Mimir's
I-
literally just like
Regardless, the point is like is that he's like sticking around. It's like a huge part of the story of it is that he's like, it's just that we can. There's that bond together of Kratos just wanting to hold on to Atreus as long as he can before he has to leave, and he knows that he has to leave and doesn't want to admit it. And then finally it happens, and then you're doing stuff with Frey. And I remember I was just doing this other side quest that I hadn't done yet, and Atreus wasn't there, and there's a ton of new dialogue depending on whether you do it with Atreus or Freya, and a lot of times they'll be like, man, Atreus would have loved this, and I'm just sitting there grinding. I was like, I should have spent more time with my boy.
Like,
I didn't do
so-
enough. Like
I
it's
guess-
like I've never been so emotionally in Kratos' shoes before, to where they through the mechanics of the game they put you exactly in Kratos' headspace, and it's fucking unbelievable.
Because they very easily could have done that thing that's like, you are now back before the final mission, and so you know you have what you know. A lot of games do that, where they're just like, we're not worry about like the lore here too much. We're gonna give you the same companion that left at the end of the last section.
But I guess it was cool because Mimir, he's basically tells Atreus like, your dad just wants to spend time with you. And like the reason that hit me hard, because I wasn't gonna say anything because didn't want to spoil, but since we were already talking about it,
Now we're doing it.
like my dad, my grandpa his dad passed away at a young age for him, so I never got to meet him. And there's so many things that my dad always is telling me. I never got to do this with my dad. So like hearing that, it's like that's just one of those things that like I wasn't expecting it to hit me as hard, but I like started like tearing up and like almost crying at that point, just because it's just one of those things that just was not expecting. It hit me out of nowhere. Like even now, I'm like kind of starting to feel these emotions like come back.
Yeah, we're all gonna call our dads after we get off the podcast.
Yeah,
just
dude.
crying.
Like without a doubt.
Highly suggest that.
If we're talking about spoilers, I got to bring up the drop near spear. I think that mechanically, that is one of the funnest things to introduce into the middle of a game. I know we kind of had said that it came too late in the game. For me, like I platinumed the game after I had beaten it. I had a lot of time to spend with this spear. I think the conversation that they have about that being his weapon, because everything else has been given to him or was inherited from somebody else, and the way that he's just kicking ass with it, and Brock and Mimir talk about that, like just beautiful sequence, and like Brock's whole when they're making the spear, and he
I was gonna bring that up.
recites the dwarven expression to him, and like I'm gonna get teared up just thinking about that because of like self-worth issues. Anyway, just beautiful game.
Not a spoiler, but something I didn't get to talk about on our spoiler cast. This will be fast. When we got introduced to the squirrel that takes care of the world's trade, I don't remember his name. Yeah, Ratatasker. There was like a 30 seconds where I was like, is he going to break into song? And if he does, I would respect Sony Santa Monica so much for just making that bold a choice. Because I'm like, if he goes into a fucking Disney song, I'm here for it.
I'm personally
he's also voiced by a YouTuber.
Oh, that's cool.
Sungwon Cho, yeah. He's the voice of Ratatasker.
I'm personally a sucker for like not evil, but like bad characters being redeemed. Like I'm a sucker for that kind of plot line.
You would love Star Wars, then, man. I keep trying to tell you.
I love Star Wars. It's fine. But I'm a the scene where he opens the panel at the end, and before he even says anything, he has that look of like hope for the first time in himself for like the entirety of the God of War franchise. And it's so genuine, like the animation on the face and everything, like without him saying a word, I was like, my heart, like I can't do it. And then he's like, what'd you see? Or someone was like, what'd you see back there? And he's like, a path. And I'm like, fuck yeah, you did. Like you earned this. Yeah, that was great for me.
I know they're making a show of it, and Christopher Judge has already said that he wants to play Kratos. If they don't cast Kratos as Christopher Judge, like they fucked up, because all of those expressions
not fucking watching it.
Yeah, like it's like not involving Neil Druckmann in the Last of Us project. Like we've seen the trailers, we've seen the tonal like similar. Like it's just Kratos is Christopher Judge.
That or that winner speech, every episode's gonna have to be like 2 hours long for Christopher Judge to be in it.
I'm here for it because that was a really good speech.
Sure.
Well, that's why Kratos traditionally doesn't say much.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird, right? He got it all out right there. So now he hit his quota for the year.
Yeah.
Get it. I get it. Okay. So, any last thoughts on God of War Ragnarok being our game of the year? Does anyone
Good game.
disagree, like, wholeheartedly? Like, it might not be your game of the year, but God of War Ragnarok being our consensus game of the year. Is anyone like, hell no?
I would think that it's like pretty basic of us if it wasn't the game that it is, and if our the rest of our list wasn't as diverse as it is. I have no issue with it. I think that the resounding kind of sound from the industry as a whole of this being a masterpiece is for a reason.
This
Yeah, I was
being our
about to
game
say
of the
it's
year.
it's a basic answer, but because I mean it's everyone's game of the year, but there's a fucking reason it's
There's a
everyone's game
reason
of
it's
the
the
year,
basic
right? Like,
bitch
yeah.
answer. Yeah.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Josh?
Oh, it's less egregious than Halo Infinite being our game of the year.
You shut the fuck up. You liked it when we picked it. You don't get to retroactively go back and be like, ew, I don't like it anymore. You were there.
It didn't even make my top
Did it?
3 last year, man. But you know, it's less.
It's fine to have bad taste, and that's really okay.
It's a
Look,
basic
Elden Ring
bitch
got
answer,
2.
but
I'm
it
gonna
works.
count my blessings. Like,
And 2 of us are
Fucking
at least
nerds.
trying it.
yeah.
Right?
Post-launch
Ragnarok-
issues have nothing to do with it not being a good game.
It has everything.
I'm just saying.
It has everything to do with it.
Even I was okay with it. I don't think I had it in my top
Josh,
3
it's game
for
of the
that
year,
so.
not game of the year and beyond. Okay. So the fact that it fell apart after, that's on them. We did a good choice.
It's not game of the year this year.
Hey, finally.
All right. So God of War Ragnarok is shared screens game of the year for the year of 2022. What was your game of the year? Comment down below, like we've already asked you to do. And if you that's egregious, that's boring, tell us why. Like I want to see why you think we could have been more creative with our choices. Let us know.
And also,
Leave
you're
a comment
wrong.
below. Like Chris is telling Josh, you're wrong. Like that's all there is. That's all there is about it. You're wrong. So thank you for watching. Check out our other stuff, like the most anticipated games. That's what Chance brought up, right? You brought that up early. I just didn't want to double dip on anything. But yeah. Thank you for watching.
Also, Brett has been bringing up the Wii U eShop a lot. We have a Wii U
What?
10-year in review up. If you have been really vibing with his little jabs he's been throwing in, go check that out. It's a really good podcast.
What was that? Like an expansion for the Wii?
I think so. I think it was just like a screen.
I've literally never heard of it.
You know, we were just talking about dads with God of War Ragnarok. The Wii U is the Switch's dad.
Yo, that's actually.
Got it.
See, some people would say that the Wii U had to walk so the Switch could.
Cut the record.